Good morning. Oh, Carrie, good morning. Good morning, Mary. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ask a Clutter Boss, the internet's best weekly decluttering advice show. All right, so I have only one submitted question, so we're going to do something. We'll answer that question and then do something a little fun here. All right, so the question is, I signed up for boot camp next week. What do I need to do to prepare for boot camp? And this question came in an email. Thank you to the person who submitted it. There is nothing that you need to do to prepare for boot camp. In the past, when I first started on my own personal decluttering journey, which was many years ago now, because for some reason I keep getting older. When I first started, I was heavily invested in preparing to get organized. I didn't really call it decluttering back then. I called it getting organized because I didn't understand you can't get organized without decluttering first. So tip number one, you can't get organized without decluttering first. If you have more stuff than fits into a space, then you're never going to be organized. It's impossible. But something that I used to do in my prep work for the big or home organization is I would go out, I would measure my spaces, and I would go out and purchase boxes or bins that fit perfectly into those spaces. I would research home organization solutions. Do I need to get more plastic racks in my garage? Is there a better way to fit more clothing into the closet? All of these things were so not the right solution. Over time, I realized I was actually organized, but I was spending so much time maintaining this organization because I had an impossible amount of stuff to make it easy. So when we do boot camp we have clutter boot camp every 4 to 6 weeks, and people ask, what do I need to do to prepare? I want you to know that you don't need to do anything. Maybe come with an open mind. You're going to hear things in boot camp that are different than what you've heard before, but definitely do not buy boxes or bins. Do not buy anything. You don't need to buy anything to be fully prepared for clutter boot camp. Good morning. Good morning. And the idea that we can buy organization is sort of a strange thing. We can learn organization, we can implement organization, but you can't be organized unless you're decluttered first. So Clutter Bootcamp is very much about actually assessing your space and your stuff, and also assessing why we are struggling with clutter. And I think that part, the why we struggle with clutter, is really the part that is pretty eye-opening to most people. I don't believe that you can really be decluttered and really have a home that is easy to manage unless you get to that why. And getting to that why is complicated. But all of our programs are designed to address the bigger picture here, why we have clutter, why it's not your fault, and how you can move forward. And then, of course, we teach you the nitty gritty, how to move forward, how to get started easily, how to keep moving forward. So you don't need to really do anything to prepare for boot camp. Just come with an open mind and maybe an understanding that clutter is about more than just the stuff. If clutter were just about the stuff, it would be so easy to get rid of it. You could just have less stuff. It's not only about the stuff. So that's my long and short how to get ready for decluttering or for Clutter Bootcamp next week. And I do hope that you will consider joining us. It is our last Clutter Bootcamp before the holidays. So if you need that week of motivation, hop in, bring a friend. It's always better with a clutter buddy. All right, so that was the one question that we had submitted for this week. And I thought, because that's not enough for an Ask a Clutter Boss episode, I thought that we could maybe ask ChatGPT, what are some common decluttering hurdles? So I did that before I logged on here. And I'm going to talk about some of these because they're actually really good talking points. So the number one, according to ChatGPT, the number one hurdle that people have with decluttering is feeling overwhelmed. So let me know in the comments, Does your clutter make you feel overwhelmed? I would say this is a top thing that we hear also. The word overwhelmed comes up almost as much as the word papers. So, papers and overwhelm are two of the most commonly typed and spoken words in our Facebook groups. Yes, feeling overwhelmed is really difficult. The thing that happens when you feel overwhelmed is a lot of times we tend to either avoid or shut down. So we just avoid the clutter entirely. We leave our house, we put on our blinders, we don't spend time at home. Um, we don't talk about, how bad it is, because oftentimes other people in our households don't really understand. So we avoid the conversation because it usually just turns into a fight. So there's either avoidance or there's total shutdown. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, and this is just in my experience of working with tens of thousands of people now, a lot of times our bodies and our brains just totally shut down when we're feeling completely overwhelmed by clutter. And this may appear to you or your family as laziness, which it is not ever. It is never laziness. I have never, ever, in the tens of thousands of people that we have worked with in Clutter Bootcamp, we've had about 35,000 people sign up over the past, 4.5 years. Not one of those people has ever been somebody who I would consider lazy. In fact, most people who come through Clutter Bootcamp are dealing with a lot of things in life. They're there's so much evidence that I see to prove that you're not a lazy person. Yet I hear you say, I feel like I'm just really lazy. I just want to lie down and scroll on my phone. No, you're not lazy. You're in shutdown mode because the clutter is so overwhelming. So I think just recognizing and taking away, let's never use that word lazy ever again. Just like we don't use the word hoarder, because it's not, those are not helpful things to be saying to yourself. They're not helpful when other people say them to you. Like, we don't need to talk like that. We can actually change this script, and starting to change the script in your head is one way that you can begin to overcome the whole feeling of being overwhelmed. You're not lazy. You're not a hoarder. You are a person who has dealt with a lot of life. Sometimes we say, Coach Amy says this a lot, when life gets lifey. You've had a lot of lifey life in the past, some real significant experiences, and you were never taught to, like none of us were ever taught to live in a world that has so much stuff in it. It is overwhelming to look at a room full of stuff, because not only do you know that you have to declutter it and make a lot of decisions, but it also needs to be cleaned and then maintained. And how do you do that? It feels exhausting. So number one, let's just switch this script in our head. You're not lazy. You're not a hoarder. You're learning how to move forward. You're actually an awesome person in every way possible. And this is not who you are. You are not defined by your clutter. Shifting that script and taking some of that shame away can start to open up your eyes to different possibilities. So when we are changing our physical environment through decluttering, we're also changing our mental environment through decluttering those thoughts. And you can either declutter the thoughts and then work on the physical environment, or you can work on the physical environment and then work on the thoughts, or you can do them together. So each path leads to actually tackling your clutter. One is more visible, one is less visible, but either way, it is okay. And there is a path forward. Another way you can start to tackle it from a more practical standpoint, if you're feeling overwhelmed, always start with easy stuff, easy, small amounts of things. You don't need to declutter, and you can't possibly declutter your entire house in a week, right? That is just not realistic. So what can we do? Can we declutter your purse? Can you declutter your junk drawer? And sometimes actually the junk drawer is like way too much. Like, there's too many different things in there. Can you declutter your sock drawer? Can you declutter your pantry and get rid of expired items? I mean, sometimes having that date is a really easy way to make a decision. What can you easily declutter? Maybe you can help somebody else declutter. So maybe you have a daughter or a mother or a father or a friend or a neighbor who is struggling with clutter. And sometimes to make some movement and room in your own life, you can just help somebody else. And that's a good start for you. There's something about actually helping other people that helps you help you more. So I don't know, just some food for thought there. Yeah, overwhelm. Overwhelm was overwhelmingly my biggest obstacle, Marie says. Yes, 100%. So small, really start small. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 items, 10 items. I mean, really small. Getting started is so much better than not getting started. It doesn't matter if you can't do it all at once. Actually, if you did it all at once, you wouldn't learn and grow through the process, and then nothing would change. So it's better to do it slowly and learn and grow as you go through this whole process. Okay, according to ChatGPT, the next biggest decluttering hurdle is what they call random placement. So items that are placed randomly can make decluttering more difficult. I love this random placement. We call this commingled collections. When you have a space, a box, a bin, a drawer, a closet, a shelf that has a lot of different types of items in it, yes, that is very overwhelming, which actually is why sometimes the junk drawer is a tricky place to start, because it is so commingled. And by commingled, we mean that you will find in your junk drawer items that belong in many different categories. Hair ties, pens and pencils. So hair ties would be probably like a bathroom thing. Pens and pencils are like a home office thing. Loose change, that is a tricky one. What do you do with loose change? Do you put it in your wallet with all the other loose change? Do you have to find time to go and take it back to the bank? Like, that's actually a tricky thing, but who doesn't have loose change in their junk drawer? Let me know in the comments. Do you have loose change in many different spots in your house? I think that is one of the more tricky, because who goes to the bank that frequently? I mean, some people do, but most of the time you're not going to the bank that frequently. It's heavy to carry all that loose change. If you use the change machine at the grocery store, they're going to take some money from you. So there's a lot of barriers to actually dealing with loose change. Yeah, that's an interesting side note there. But random placement, commingled items. Start maybe with a collection that doesn't have so many commingled items, like socks, right? If you're dealing with socks, you're dealing with one category. Sometimes there are socks in your junk drawer. That has happened to me before. I have opened the junk drawer and found a sock. Why is there a sock in the junk drawer in the kitchen? I don't know, but that is a commingled item. I guess here's another good question. What is the most random thing you have found in your junk drawer? Right? Like, I have a jar also, Alyssa. I think that's a good thing to do, but I also have a jar that's overflowing. So it needs to be dealt with. True confessions here, true confessions. So, okay, that random placement and feeling overwhelmed. The next most common hurdle that people have with tackling clutter, according to ChatGPT, is lack of time. You might not have enough time to declutter. Okay. Let me know if lack of time is an issue that you have when it comes to decluttering. This one is the most ironic of the challenges and hurdles to overcome when you're decluttering, because clutter steals your time. So when you have clutter, it is harder to find things. It is harder to put things away. It is harder to get started to do things. It is harder to have, you wake up, it impacts your mental health. You wake up, you feel drained by your clutter. You feel frustrated by your clutter. And then maybe that frustration leaks into your different interactions that you have with your family members. You'll never get that time or that interaction back, right? Clutter steals our time. If you have, oh gosh, I have to remember the math here. If you spend 10 minutes a day searching for something, it's something like a couple of days a year that you're spending searching for things. And of course, most of us are spending more than 10 minutes a day. It literally steals your time. So when you don't have enough time to declutter, that's really tricky, because the more time you spend not decluttering, the less time you have, period. So it's kind of like this twisted logic. If you are saying you don't have time to declutter, and you have a lot of clutter, I would say to that, you need to make this a top priority and give it time. Something else needs to disappear from your to-do list so that you can focus on decluttering. I have a double negative here that I like. You don't have time to not declutter. You don't have time to not declutter. So this is a really big issue. If clutter is stealing your time, the only way to address this, if you have no time, is to find time. There's no way around this. And I think sometimes people get a little put off by our like cold hard truth. That is how we are at Clutter Boss. This is the cold hard truth. You have to prioritize decluttering if you want to have more time in your life. And if you have no time to declutter, you need to find time to declutter. There's no way around this. I mean, there is no way to get decluttered if you have no time. You have to make the time, period. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You don't have to make hours of time, though. You can make small amounts of time every single day. And I think sometimes we don't want to declutter because we have to make decisions. We have to address the emotion of things. So, there's ways to start pushing through that too, process those things. That's why in Clutter Boss Academy, we have coaches that help with finances, help with emotions, help with, psychotherapy, help with all that stuff, because it is so working through the reasons you don't want to declutter. It's a really big part of this process. You have to make the time. I struggle with this also. Yeah, it's it's a big issue. But something you need to make the time. That's just it. There's no other answer. I mean, if you have another answer for that, let me know. And we can talk about how to make time, how to find time. But a priority is a priority is a priority. And if decluttering is a priority, but you're not doing it, it's not really a priority. It's just you're saying it's a priority. So that's, shared with love from me to you. If it's a priority, prioritize it. You have to use your time wisely now to get time in the future. Yes, Keely, exactly. All right, there's two more common hurdles according to ChatGPT that we have, biggest decluttering hurdles that we have. So the next one is keeping things for later. You may be tempted to keep things for later, but it's better to make decisions about what to keep and what to part with. Okay, so ChatGPT nails this one. We call this just in case. Just in case. And I love how Coach Anka says, it is time to break up with just in case. He is not helping you at all. We also say, like, cute, can't use this ever. We hang on to things that are cute or that are just in case, and then we can't find them when we need them, or they're taking time and space from our life right now. Time and space in our life right now is more important than anything in the future, because we know what we need in this moment. Nobody can predict the future. Nobody knows what you're going to need in the future. And are you really saving money by hanging on to things that you may or may never use? I think you save more money by not buying things that you may or may never use. So overconsumption, which is just par for the course in the American society today, overconsumption costs us way more money than letting go of things that we're hanging on to for just in case. And changing your spending habits, and not even spending. I feel like there's maybe too much emotion around that word. Changing your consumption habits, using what you have, making better decisions about what you're going to purchase, thinking these things through, becoming a different type of consumer is what is going to save you time, money, and also what is going to have the biggest environmental impact in the future. So changing how you consume and who you are as a consumer is the best thing that you can do for your wallet, for the environment, and for your time. And when we are feeling like we have to hang on to stuff for later use, we just don't know. We don't know. That, are we really saving money doing that? And how much money? Because there is a cost to store things. And if we're not putting all of the costs into this equation, we're not getting the right answer. All right. So, okay. That's my thoughts on that one. And the last one, which ChatGPT says is the biggest decluttering hurdle, is confusing cleanliness with decluttering. I thought this was an interesting one to show up on this list. A clean home isn't necessarily decluttered if there's too much stuff in your closet and drawers. I don't think that ChatGPT did a good job really explaining that one. But confusing cleanliness with decluttering. And I think confusing cleaning with decluttering would be a better way to say it. So we talk about having to clean our homes. Cleaning is sanitizing. Decluttering is removing items. So if we have to declutter or pick up a lot of stuff in order to sanitize our homes, in order to clean, it's going to take us way longer to clean. We're not really cleaning, we're picking up and putting away or decluttering. So we tend to think of cleaning as a very arduous task that takes a long time. And yes, it does take some time. But if we're including picking up, putting away, and decluttering in our cleaning, yeah, it feels way overwhelming. And who has time for that? That is a lot of time. So just kind of separating those two things out. The thing about having a decluttered house, if you are decluttered and well organized, there is a home for everything. Picking up and putting stuff away should take virtually no time, because there's never that question, where does this go? And you're never putting things away in a million different spots or random spots and then having to search for them later. So a truly decluttered and organized home takes no time to pick up and put stuff away. Like no time. It just becomes what you do. It becomes you. And then cleaning it is so much easier. So when we talk about cleaning versus decluttering, yeah, this is definitely a challenge to overcome, how we think about these things, because they're different. They impact one another, but they're different tasks. All right, so I think I will say thank you to ChatGPT for sharing with us the biggest decluttering hurdles that they find from searching the internet, I guess. Feeling overwhelmed, random placement, which we would call commingled items, lack of time, keeping things for later, the just in case, and confusing cleanliness with decluttering, and confusing cleaning with decluttering. I thought that was a pretty good list. What do you guys think? ChatGPT nailed it, close to nailed it. Yeah. So anyway, that is your Ask a Clutter Boss for today. Reminder, Clutter Bootcamp starts on Monday. Monday, fun day. I am your first coach on Monday, and then we have a team of Clutter Boss coaches delivering new lessons and food for thought every single day. Go ahead, grab your spots. We cannot wait to work with you next week and really accelerate that decluttering or cleaning or organizing wherever you are on that journey in advance of the holidays, and just kind of giving you a head start here. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.